Hey everyone, I'm Janine, and I bet you're never going to be able to guess what I did today. Okay, so you're going to guess. I made a cake, and this week I'm going to show you how I created this Hexagon Terrazzo inspired cake with chocolate spheres on top made into a molecule. First thing I have to do is to cut down my chocolate cakes so that they fit inside our hexagon board and that there's room enough to put our ganache on. For this cake I'm using 3 different types of chocolate cake. I'm using a milk chocolate cake, a dark chocolate cake and a black chocolate cake, black as my soul. So the next step is to fill our layers with chocolate ganache and stack them on top of each other. Because this cake is quite dense, I'm actually going to use a support system in the middle, which is just a board placed around the halfway mark of the stacking, and that's secured with some bubble tea straws. The cake is filled, stacked and supported, so now it's time to give it a quick ganache coat and pop it in the fridge. Now that the cake has had some time to chill with its rough ganache coat, it's time to go on and do a good ganache coat. I'm going to use a top board, the same as the base board, as a guide to get a good sharp hexagon shape. Now that the final ganache coat is set, I have to take this top board off. I'm going to do that by taking a hot knife and just running it underneath the board and popping that off. Then I'm going to just take an extra bit of ganache and level off the top of the cake. Now that I've finished leveling off the top of my cake, there's a couple of things I have to do ahead of time so that they can dry. So one thing I have to do is cover the board, and the other thing I have to do is roll out some very, very thin pieces of coloured fondant so it dries in time so we can crumble it up and get that terrazzo look we're after. So the next step is onto making some panels to put around our cake. Now the best and easiest way to do this is to measure out the cake and make a template to cut the panels to, especially with this one as I have 6 sides to do. Now it's time to get the terrazzo look on the fondant. The terrazzo elements of the cake are made using the thin pieces of fondant that we rolled out earlier and add tiny pieces of the coloured fondant. Then I'm going to take some acrylic spacers to make sure that our fondant's all the same width and roll it out nice and thin. So the first thing I have to do is panel the top of the cake. I'm going to roll out my fondant, add the terrazzo bits of fondant and pop it on, cut around the edges, and the top will be panelled. Now that I've made the panels, it's time to put the cake onto the board and put the panels onto the cake. So I'm going to attach the cake to the board with a little bit of ganache and then add the panels and cut them to size so they all meet up. Now that the cake's panelled, it's time to add just a few embellishments to take it to that next level. So I'm going to add some gold accents and a little bit of a white spray. Okay, now that I've done those little embellishments on the cake, the last thing we have to do is to make the topper, which is the piece de resistance. I'm going to make some chocolate spheres and make them look a little bit like a chocolate molecule on top of the cake. But the first thing you have to do to make the chocolate spheres is to melt down 2 different sorts of chocolate. I'm melting down dark and white chocolate. Then to the white chocolate, I'm going to add some navy oil colour to turn it a nice rich navy colour to match the cake. Now that I've unmoulded my half spheres, I have to turn them into spheres. Now to do that, I have to go over to the stove and very gently heat up either side of the half sphere, put them together and meld them together. The gold spheres, I'm using dark chocolate and I'm using an edible dust to dust them gold because gold turns up so much better on dark chocolate. Then, once I've turned them into spheres, I'm going to stack them on top of each other using melted chocolate and freeze spray. So there you go, a Hexagon Terrazzo inspired cake with a chocolate molecule topper. I hope you really enjoyed watching this video. If you did, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell down the bottom so that you are informed every time I upload new content. Anywho, I will see you next time, and in the meantime, don't forget, go and get your cake on.